I was born ready.
I get that sense. It's great to meet you, Mario. Thank you for taking a minute out today for the show. I appreciate it.
You got it, Joe. I'm happy to be here.
So let's get into it. Before we get into your good work, I want to know first and foremost, surviving the pandemic. And I know Seattle was an epicenter in the beginning. There was so much that we had to figure out and that got rearranged during that time period. How much
Yeah.
of living and surviving that time period has influenced the way that you live your life now?
Probably this is going to be one of the most interesting and short answers to that because during the time I was trapped in Asia. I was traveling Asia for 5 years. I went to India. I went to Kathmandu. I went to Sri Lanka. Then I was visiting Bali, Indonesia,
Yeah.
and it happened. And I was trapped for a couple of years there.
Wow.
So being trapped in a third world country during pandemic, I have a whole different perspective on it. Like you would not even believe it.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard like the stories I heard when I came back to the US, what you guys have gone through. I'm like, that's not how I experienced it at all.
Wow. That's wild. You know what's interesting about that? I was in the back of a water taxi in Venice, Italy on the morning of September 11th, 2001. So my perspective, I had to try to get back to America because my flight didn't exist. There was all this going on, but my experience was totally different too. Like I was floating in the Baltic Ocean in a hippie commune called Vernazza, Italy, a day after, and it was just a different experience. I mean, I was still doing my vacation thing, but I was trying to get back home, but it was just different. It's like what you're saying. Like what happens outside of America is just a different beast altogether.
There is really, there is a difference between reality and subjective reality.
Yeah,
What is really going on and from which angle we're looking at it. It's
absolutely.
it's really humbling. It's really, really humbling.
So let me ask you this.
Please.
I want to get to the heart and soul of what you do as a social communication expert. And what I want to do is put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids. It's career day. They're 10 or 11 years old. And the kid in the back of the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Oh my goodness. I like that you're giving me, obviously, I was not prepared for this question. I The name and the title of your podcast channel is actually somewhat intimidating because famous. Like, I don't feel that famous. I'm just a human trying to do my best.
Yeah.
Basically, I am a social communication expert where I help people to detect the invisible language that exists amongst us and we're not aware of it. Hence, sometimes we misuse it.
Okay. So the name of my show is kind of a
Yeah.
play on words. It's
Oh yeah.
more of we're going to make this interview famous based on the vernacular and our communications. So it's kind of a wordplay thing.
I
So
like it.
yeah, so we'll do. So let me ask you this. What did you want to be when you were like 10 or 11 years old? What was your dream life?
Um, to understand life more and more. I love to connect dots from a really young age. I think every single human being, every single child was born in a way they had their own curiosity. And I don't know, something about me from really young age, I fought tooth and nail to maintain my curiosity. And that got me far in life, to stay open-minded. And still until today, people tell me I'm blessed. I have a good head on my shoulder. I'm really open-minded. I love to learn, stay curious, stay hungry, and experience junkie.
Where were you born and raised? Where did all this start for you?
I was actually born and raised in Egypt, Cairo, Egypt, back in the early 80s. And I was born from two very different parents. My dad was a Christian Coptic monk for about 20 years before he got married. And eventually he left the church and he was coming to the US, but he met my mother. My mom was more like lower education kind of person, yet she was an amazing business person. She was good with people and numbers and money. So I had like two polar opposite parents. One is like, go and get things done, and the other parent is like, your existence is a blessing. So I had those two in my life. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, growing up in the cradle of civilization in Egypt and being next to those monuments and feeling that antiquitous history of civilization, What was that like? What is that seed that was planted from your birth? How has that become who you are?
Um, Being aware of how culture shape us consciously and subconsciously. At least, at what age are we talking here? Just to be clear, as an adult, or is like you're talking
Pro-
about a young age kind of kid?
Probably from a young age, because all
Okay,
of that began and kind of evolved into who you are today.
I love that. So thank you for bringing this up because I remember when you asked me what I do, and I used some definitions and as if I was talking to like an older crowd. But being curious about our surroundings and see what is really there that we could benefit from, and being tuned into what we want to become and try may not necessarily align with what our surroundings actually want out of us. And it's very important to actually build the connections with the ones who might have a similar ideas of what we want to do, staying curious, be happy. Um, One of the things I learned in the Egyptian culture, uh, in every culture, there's so many subdivisions of subcultures, and we need to be aware of the impact on that in a way that we choose our relationships and people around us. Even as a child, that's very, very important. Even as a really young child, I only had a handful, few friends that I meet on daily basis, I talk to on daily basis. So yeah,
So, who has been kind of a hero, an inspirational figure in your life?
I love this question. That would be honorably and gratefully say my dad. Even though my dad passed away about 24 years ago now, I have to say I see him as the greatest man that I've ever known that walked this earth. When people talk about like Jesus Christ, I think about my dad. That my dad is my Jesus Christ. Yeah, extremely humble, kind, compassionate, humanitarian, patient. He was a magnet for other people's respect just because the way he carried himself, the way he made people feel by his presence and his responses and actions. Yeah, my dad.
So, what ultimately brought you to America?
That was back in 2000, 25 years ago. Remember, I mentioned a minute ago that I had to fight tooth and nail to maintain my curiosity.
Uh-huh.
I came to the US to simply improve my English language, to just learn to speak English. Obviously, I spoke English when I first came here, but it was like basic.
Yeah.
Um, I remember when I went to the embassy for the interview, they said, "Why do you want to visit the US?" And I said, "It is my dream to learn to speak English." Um, and yeah, I had the opportunity in the first 3 years. I went to Nashville State Tech in Tennessee, studying basic English, grammar, reading, writing. Fast forward 25 years later, I have published 3 books, did research for over 17 years, and I'm working on my fourth book. And these books are being translated to different languages as well.
Talk to me about your latest book and even the book that you're working on now.
The latest book, the title is The Listener, Learning by Osmosis. Universe is the true university. That's the subtitle.
Yeah.
What is listening? What is the difference between listening and hearing? How do we practice listening in our relationships with ourselves and other people, spouses, co-workers? They even also talk about the function of listening between kids and parents and how each can listen to one another. As you said, how parents can be role model for the kids. We all know. Um, it's funny, yet I think it's perfectly said. Monkey see, monkey do. We really are like that. That's so true. Really. I remember when I was like really young and my parents like watch TV and they like mumble because they're reading the subtitle. When I was really young, I used to just mumble just to copy them. I'm not even reading what's in the screen. Monkey see, monkey do. We need
Yeah.
to be aware of that. And the book that I'm working on right now, hopefully will come out by May or so. This is more like a mature kind of book. It's called The Little Green Book, 104 104 seeds and thoughts of wisdom from the west to the east.
Wow.
Something palm size, 4 by 6, something you put in your pocket, 100, 110 pages. my research of 17 years have given me so much material to share with the world. I'm gonna leave this earth and I will not be able to share everything that I want to share. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to pump through, get, share. So yeah,
that's wonderful. So let me ask you this.
please.
You have a very wise, adventurous spirit. I'm curious if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find inspirational that might help you further on your path. Who would you love to meet and hang out with for a little bit?
Definitely Obama.
Yeah, I'd join you.
Is it him or his wife or both of them?
Sure.
That would be like, yes. Oh my God. I don't know if anyone asked me that question before. I love that. That's yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful. Let me ask you this. If you have a dream tonight, you
Mhm.
run into that version of you 25 years ago before you come to America, and
Mm.
you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life that you've experienced since leaving Egypt and being in America, all the wisdom you've accumulated over these years. What advice would you give that younger version of you?
I'm the kind of person that would avoid advices at any cost, but I volunteer for this interview. So I put myself here. What I would tell myself 25 years ago. Um, I would tell him, learn to spend time with yourself.
Yeah,
Learn to put distraction away. Learn to feel like you don't have to hang out with someone. Go in your bedroom, close the door, set a timer for 15, 20 minutes, maybe pen and paper in your hand, maybe yes, maybe no. Just sit with yourself. I go one time a day. I do this every day now. 20 minutes to 30 minutes early in the morning. Start with 10 minutes. Just spend some time with yourself because the most important relationship we will ever have is with ourselves.
yeah,
Cultivating that intentionally, it helps us to choose and be selective about the ones that we invite in. Because when we don't cultivate enough relationship with ourselves, we welcome everyone and anyone that come in.
yeah.
But when we set those boundaries and cultivate this compassionate relationship with ourselves, it guides every thought and every action that we take.
So, in our lives, the best way that we can get to the next place and evolve as human beings is the risks that we take. What's one of the biggest risks that you've taken in your life?
Oh, a lot. Oh my goodness, a
Yeah.
lot. Um, Between changing jobs regularly every year or two, moving to a state where I don't know anyone, where I don't have a job, or I don't even have a place yet. Um, 2017, when I gave everything I had away and I just traveled to Asia with my backpack, literally experienced junkie. Yeah, many.
So, yeah, totally. So let me ask you this. As an author, as a writer,
Mhm.
what was your favorite book growing up? What was the go-to book?
Uh, have you ever heard of Joseph Murphy, The
Yeah,
Power of Your Subconscious Mind?
yeah,
This book really changed my life almost 20 years ago and still until today.
yeah. Interesting. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten in your life?
The best advice I ever got in my life. Yes, you can.
Yeah, yeah. That was kind of the Obama
Oh,
tagline.
I didn't draw the line. That's so
Yeah, good job,
I
man.
didn't draw the link.
It,
It just
you know what's so weird about you saying that and me thinking that is that you just said your favorite book was about the subconscious, and that's what it is. Like all of that kind of boils up, right? We just had a meta moment.
I love you, man. You're awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. It's wonderful, man.
I,
So
I yeah.
it's wonderful. So let me ask you this. Of all of these things that you've done and overcome and achieved and evolved into, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
The proudest moment of my achievement
Of your
or
life,
something.
everything that you've done and worked for and become at this very moment that we're speaking, what are you the proudest of?
Are you forcing me to have like a midlife crisis or something? What's
No,
going on? I'm
no,
just
no,
kidding.
no.
It happened towards you. Don't worry. I'm kidding. It
I'm
happened.
forcing the listeners to have a midlife
Yeah.
crisis.
um, to be able to pursue something in my heart that I could not define at the time, yet I was really resilient and persistent by researching, asking, listening, reading, writing to figure out what is this something within me. Basically, I was searching for my it.
Yeah.
And I think we've heard it before. I've heard it so many times before I found my it. Once you find your it, there's no turning back. It does not matter if you find that at 10 years old or 80 years old, finding my it, which is communication and empowering communication.
So I have to ask you this, as a native
Please.
of Egypt and being next to the pyramids and something as magical as that, I have you ever read the book The Chariots of the Gods?
No, it sounds familiar, but no, honestly, no.
Okay, so it's about how human beings, a civilization came from the future to help us from annihilating ourselves. And it
Oh,
basically talks about how all of these things that were from antiquitous times, like the pyramids, were really constructed by a race that was not human, that was more superior, that had. So, my question to you is this: this is in a roundabout way getting back to this. Did human beings as we know it make that? Or do you think something interstellar created that? What's your take on it?
I think it is something way powerful. First of all, the Egyptians that exist right now,
Yeah.
the I was just gonna say, like, a lot of them don't even know how to build a table, so I can tell you they did not build the pyramids.
There we go.
And scientifically proven, like, I do believe this is actually true. The pyramids existed even before ancient Egyptians. I really think so.
Yeah.
I it's honestly, I know that might be a little disheartening for your listeners because I'm like, I was born and raised in Egypt. I'm actually 100% Egyptian. I did not visit the pyramids until I came to the US and I went to visit back US, visit Egypt in 2007. So 7 or 8 years after I left Egypt was the first time I've ever gone to pyramids my entire life.
Yeah.
And to be very frank, for the giggles, as we say, I was disappointed.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective though, to grow up there and to have the perspective of coming to America and back. I find that fascinating.
Well, I went because my fiance at the time she wanted to visit, but
Yeah.
for me it was like, we have something in the back of the backyard. Why would you go and check it out? Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have the in Seattle we have Space Needle. I just
Uh-huh.
went only once in like 15 years. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
um the persona and the idea, the story that we're building around pyramids, it's more of a nostalgic original story than how reality meets the eye.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Many limitations of things you cannot see in the pyramids. It's really expensive, and yeah, and if not careful there, you can lose a lot of your belongings.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am not. I'm not a very good PR speaker for tourism in Egypt.
It's okay.
I'm
No,
honest.
no, you're good. I love the honesty. I love the honesty. And
It
I'm going to
helps.
get to an honest place with you right now. My
Mm,
my final question to you is this. Everyone has a perception of you.
mhm,
Family, friends,
mhm.
everyone that knows you, clients, but you run the show. The readers of your books. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Um, I am an opportunity that happens to exist right now. I call it a temporary miracle. And with this awareness of the privilege to be here and the chances, one in like trillion chance for me to exist, um, I'm a temporary miracle and I am looking to make a positive impact before I leave this experience.
I love it. So let me ask you this. We get off a call here, a time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go anywhere in human history and see one event with your own eyes. What would you love to have seen?
Anytime, past or future,
Yeah, anytime.
before the Big Bang.
Okay. I dig
I don't
it.
know if that's possible.
That's totally
I love
that's
history. I love researching history.
that's mysterious and cosmic. I love it. So let me ask you this. If anyone has questions and they want to reach out, they want to buy your books, they want to dig in further, what's any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
My website, www.mariowissa.com. That's my first name, last name, Mario, Mario, last name, Wissa.com. Also, email, contact me at mariowissa.com. Also, on my website, you have the chance to book 30-minute 101 with me if anyone wants to connect or talk or figure out something they want to work on. All the work that I do is pretty much volunteer. I don't really charge. I'm a retired person, and I know I'm not going to take $1 with me.
Yeah,
So I want to make good in this life.
I love it. I love your energy, Mario. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Best of luck. I love your English. I mean, the fact that
No, thank you.
it's beautiful, it's seamless. So thank you. I appreciate your time today.
I do my best. Thank you for the amazing questions. Thank you for my God, you're so creative with your questions. I appreciate what you do. Much
Thank you.
respect.
Thank you. And it was easy. You're a wonderful soul. Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep spilling the light out there. We need it.
Take care, brother.